"Move that damn shack 20 feet back or you're going to jail," Karen shrieked, her perfectly manicured finger already hovering over 911 as I just stood there, arms crossed, giving her the calmest no I've ever mustered in my life. The HOA vultures were circling, snapping pictures, waving threats and lawsuits like confetti. But let me tell you, all that posturing stopped cold when the real survey crew showed up, because their map shut everyone up in a heartbeat. Turns out, the property line ran dead through the middle of their street, and every single house, including Karen's, sat on land I'd bought outright. The whispering started immediately. You could feel the collective, "oh crap," ripple through the crowd. Suddenly those proud stares turned sideways, and Karen was the one looking for backup. You ever have one of those moments where you know the tables just turned, but you're not sure if it's for better or worse? That was me, closing my weathered cabin door as a parade of squad cars rolled right past, straight to Karen's place the next evening. Nobody said a word to me, and honestly, I was happy to watch the show from my own porch, coffee in hand, letting the fog roll off Lake Arrowhead while the neighborhood gossiped itself silly. I'm 62 now, old enough to know better, but apparently not old enough to avoid this kind of drama. I came out here after 30 years building a life as a construction engineer in Denver, only to watch it all go up in flames. It was the kind of big city scandal you read about but never think will touch you, until it does. Bribery, falsified inspections, the works. I was the whistleblower, but you know how that usually goes. You blow the whistle, and your life blows up. That's why I ended up in this rickety cabin my uncle built in the 70s, tucked between the pines, windows facing the water because he always said, "Money can't buy a view like this." The place had always been a refuge, at least, until the HOA stormed in. Now, Karen, she's the classic HOA queen bee, silver hair in a helmet, attitude set to scold, suit pressed to within an inch of its life. She rolled up in a white Escalade that probably cost more than my cabin itself, trailed by a sharp-suited lawyer and a local councilman/developer type, all ready for a legal ambush. They hit me with that classic, "You're 20 feet over the line. Pack up or face the consequences." I just sipped my coffee and pulled out the old deed, original surveys, taxes paid, county stamps, all of it. The lawyer, Mark, gave me the "we'll see about that" smile, and Karen started dialing 911 with the gusto of someone calling in an airstrike. Police show up. Classic scene. Deputy Benson, solid guy, patient, you can tell he's seen it all, takes a look at my paperwork, listens to Karen's tantrum, and shrugs. "Looks like a civil issue, ma'am." And that was that. Karen's face was priceless, flipping from outrage to disbelief so fast I half expected steam out her ears. But you know, when money's on the line, people don't just walk away. That's when the real game started. Sterling, the developer, started sniffing around, pretending it's about property values, but you could smell something rotten. I dug into county records, and what do you know? The original 1962 survey lines up perfectly with my deed, but the HOA's updated map quietly scoots the boundary over, swallowing my land and a few extra acres for good measure. Funny how errors always work in their favor, huh? This was no neighborly mix-up. It was orchestrated, and I wasn't the only target. Enter Nancy, 60-something, practical, been here since the beginning. She reached out with old blueprints and surveys showing how the HOA had chipped away at everyone's property line, inch by inch, year after year. Her own back fence had been swallowed by corrections until the house she bought wasn't even on the lot she'd paid for. You start to see the pattern, slow-motion theft, hidden in bureaucracy. I got a state surveyor involved, a guy named Lucas, young but sharp, didn't play favorites. He showed up with a team and enough gear to map half the county, started cross-checking old markers and GPS points. HOA folks crowded around like they were watching a public execution. But the anxiety was starting to show. Lucas uncovers an original boundary marker buried under leaves, right where my uncle's deed said it should be, and suddenly the whole narrative flips. Turns out, not only was my cabin legal, the whole Silver Pines development was sitting smack in the middle of land I owned. That $1 million house with the red shutters? On my dirt. That, my friend, is when all hell broke loose. Cameras stopped clicking, the lawyer started cussing, Karen nearly fainted. Within a week, HOA threats turned to anonymous harassment. Broken glass in my driveway, creepy notes tucked under my windshield, Online smear campaigns rehashing the Denver scandal, like I hadn't lived that nightmare already. Even my old clients in Colorado got calls, as if they could scare me back into silence. I'm not gonna lie, there were nights I almost packed it in. Who wants this at 62? But every threat, every cheap trick, just convinced me I was right. And it wasn't just about me. Nancy got hit too, fined, threatened, her dog accused of being a menace. Anyone who stood up got isolated or attacked. Sterling was playing for keeps. What they didn't expect was that people were fed up. Neighbors started whispering at the diner, showing up at meetings, piecing together just how deep the fraud ran. Mia, a local reporter, dug into the story, turning my little property dispute into front-page news. Suddenly, I'm getting calls from strangers who'd lost land the same way, retirees, veterans, single moms, all with the same pattern: developers, lawyers, survey errors, and intimidation. You know what's wild? When you shine a light on roaches, they scatter. But if you keep the light on long enough, the whole house wakes up. That's what happened. Social media lit up, hashtag 20FTGate, drone shots of my cabin next to those luxury homes, all of it going viral. The pressure built until even the state attorney general had to open an investigation. Sterling's operation started to unravel. Whistleblowers came forward, old employees, surveyors, even Karen flipped, handing over recordings of strategy sessions where they called elderly homeowners soft targets. By the time it hit the courts, the evidence was overwhelming. The judge didn't just rule in my favor. She called it what it was, a multi-state criminal conspiracy. Sterling went down hard. Handcuffs and all. The HOA was dismantled, the land returned to rightful owners, and a compensation fund set up for families who'd lost everything to this scam. Karen got community service and, last I heard, was helping whistleblowers in Montana. And me? Well, I built a community workshop on the edge of the property, exactly 20 feet from the old boundary. Couldn't resist the poetry of that. We teach kids woodworking, sustainable gardening, how to read a survey. Nancy became the new HOA president and actually apologized to my face for how the whole neighborhood treated me. Can't say I ever thought I'd see the day. Funny thing, this all started with one woman yelling at me to move my cabin. And it ended with dozens of corrupt officials being perp-walked on the evening news, new laws getting passed to protect homeowners, and a whole region waking up to the fact that truth doesn't just sit there. It fights back, if you give it half a chance. You know what I learned? The only thing scarier than standing up to a bully is realizing you're not alone. That once enough people get fed up with the system, even the slickest crooks can't outrun the truth forever. So yeah, maybe I'm just one stubborn old man who refused to budge, but I'd do it again. Sometimes the fight picks you, and you've got to stand your ground. What do you think? Should justice depend on how much money you have, or on what's actually right? Comment below if you've ever had to stand up to a crooked system or face down an HOA from hell. Because if my story proves anything, it's that one person willing to fight can turn the whole tide. And the more voices that join in, the stronger that current becomes.